update.
Well, good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to NBC News Daily. I'm Abby Price with your Midday Ark-La-Miss update. Well, in state news, policyholders in Louisiana will have an extra 30 days to place policies with Louisiana citizens after another insurance company is set to cancel at the end of March. According to Insurance Commissioner Jim Donnellan, United Property and Casualty Insurance Company policyholders who don't find a new policy before the UPC policy is canceled will be covered by citizens for claims between the cancellation date and the end of the extension period. Well, two bills were presented and opposed at last week's meeting of the Lincoln Parish Library Board of Control. Board members say that there are changes that need to be made to the bills before they can support them.
Last week, the Lincoln Parish Library Board of Control voted against a bill that would change the nature of the board members' terms and the way that the library is managed. I spoke to a member of the board to learn more about their opposition and what the next steps are.
The local governing authority, usually the police jury, appoints board members. The board is responsible for management of the library.
In the system that has been in place for over 50 years, board members serve a 5-year term. The terms are staggered, meaning there is a continuous flow of members coming in and out of the board. House Bill 25 would change that.
First, it would say that the governing authority could terminate and replace any board member at any time for any reason, and could leave the new board member on there for as long as they chose.
The Board of Control has ideas for amendments, such as allowing the governing authority to remove members with just cause and allowing the managing of the library to be left to the board, as the bill proposes giving management rights to the Lincoln Parish Police Jury. Another bill that the board opposed and is looking to amend is Senate Bill 7, which proposes certain materials to be labeled as sexually explicit in the library. The board is looking to change the label and definition to age appropriate, seeing as materials like Shakespeare and even the Bible would be labeled under sexually explicit if using the bill's definition. Now, the board is seeking to educate others on the bills and move forward towards the state legislature.
We'll be contacting our area legislators. We'll be working with the Louisiana Library Association and other public libraries across the state.
Representatives of the Lincoln Parish Library Board, as well as other libraries across the state, will attend the state legislature meeting on April 10th to present their ideas for amendments to the bills.
Well, in Arkansas news, a new bill looking to end affirmative action in Arkansas will go before a House committee. The bill, filed by State Senator Dan Sullivan, recently passed the Senate. Sullivan says the point of his bill is to ensure state agencies provide funding for everyone based on merit. But the CEO of Women's Foundation Arkansas, Anna Beth Gorman, says this legislation would overwhelm her nonprofit.
It is not in our past history to follow legislation, but this absolutely impacts the work that we do.
The process that we're going through will end up vetting people who really qualify for that, for the services that we render.
Sullivan says nothing would be impacted for about 2 years because the bill has a phased-in plan.
And now, Storm Tracker Doppler weather with meteorologist Trey Tonneson.
Following an interesting day into the northeast today, we'll actually see a nor'easter today that continues on into the afternoon hours, but here into the south, we won't really crank up weather-wise until late Thursday into Friday. The reason for that being a deepening system out to the west will move across the country and through the mountainous regions, eventually on into the south. While we get there, we have a severe weather risk for late Thursday, early Friday. Areas to the west of our viewing area have a level 2 slight risk for severe weather. That's 2 out of 5. You have El Dorado and Ruston included in that, as is Camden. But as you move over towards the east, the rest of our viewing area, any level 1 out of 5 marginal risk for severe weather Friday morning. But before we get there, we'll have another nice day of weather today. Mostly sunny skies with highs reaching levels closely resembling what we felt yesterday into the lower 60s. It'll be breezy but cool out there throughout the morning hours, definitely. But those morning lows, a little bit chilly for you in the upper 30s, so definitely carry a jacket if you're heading outside. And on into the rest of the week, we have a few pattern changes. Onto your Wednesday, slightly cloudier, slightly warmer though into the afternoon hours, but that helps build our next system into Thursday and Friday, that being Thursday afternoon into Friday morning.
Well, that's it for your midday update. Have a great day. NBC News Daily continues.